Sorry, there looks like maybe I was on mute. So, anyways, back to my updates here. Thanks for joining us again. And today we have Steph Diane, who is with us. She is a Quora writer and spiritual seeker, and she's going to be with us for a little while here. And we're just going to have a nice discussion on her background, her spiritual path, and so on and so forth. A couple things before we get started. I have an exciting couple of weeks coming up. I have quite a few interviews lined up. I have May Yakub, who is a university teacher at Saddleback College here in South Orange County, and she's going to be sharing about her spiritual journey. She is an Ashtanga yoga teacher. She's traveled the world to learn different techniques from different teachers, and May is just a sweet person. So she's going to be on with us in the next couple of weeks. I also have lined up Laura Love, and Laura is a wonderful person. She was sharing her story with me a couple of weeks ago about how she got into the path of teaching yoga. She teaches yoga in South Orange County at Dharma House Yoga. So Laura will be with me as well. And we have other things on the back burner that we're working on. So excited to kind of go live. Now, I know we may have some Quora folks with us too as well. We posted this on Quora, where Steph and I both write. And so I'm really excited to have Steph with us today. Steph, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You know, it's a little bit jumbled here and there, but I think we're just going to have to give it a shot. I'm sorry, everyone. We had a little technical problem right at the last minute. We did some tests earlier today and everything sounded good. And I don't know if the YouTube servers are overwhelmed or what's going on, but we have a little bit of a connection issue, but we'll see what we can do. And we're just going to kind of dive into it. So Steph, thank you so much for being with us today, and really appreciate having you on.
I appreciate having me, and I appreciate our Chris.
Yeah. So I kind of want to update everyone with I just kind of want to let people know kind of where you came from. I found your page, The Enchanted Widow, on Quora, and I was really touched by your pinned article there. And I'm sure so many people would love to kind of hear a little bit about your story. And of course, if we've become friends over time, I've been really fascinated by just your story and your journey and how it all started.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess let's start from the beginning. Were you a spiritual person before this all started, or what was your spiritual inclinations?
No, it's really odd because I was raised without religion. I think my parents taught me how to pray because as far back as I can remember, I always prayed to God. Know necessarily what or who my God was, but I always always remember being a little girl and standing in my backyard feeling a very connection to God, like a personal, like I had a telephone, where I communicate to God. I just have always gone back to that moment, after I had awakening and thinking, my spiritual time, was I awakening this whole time? I'm not really sure, but I never felt spiritual. I mean, I'd have, a tarot card reading every now and then. But as far as, researching, nothing like that. I just always considered myself agnostic. Like I believed in something, I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And so you didn't have a religious background, but then things started to change for you. Tell me about like what happened. What was the bridge to you on your spiritual path?
About 10 years ago, approximately, I started to hear things inside, describe it, but I would ask an internal question, just in my mind, and after I would get an answer. and I knew it wasn't me. It came completely out of nowhere, literally. And I would hear something, and then I started to see holographic type visions. Um, Specifically, I was watching television, and it was an Alcatraz documentary, and I'll never forget this. I was just sitting on my bed, and in front of my television appeared a man. And I thought, what on earth am I seeing? But I don't know, nothing, it always seemed organic to me, like nothing extraordinary. But of course, I knew, okay, I can't tell people about this. They'll think I'm losing my mind,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Um, and then after my mom passed away in 2013, it kind of seemed like things started to accelerate. I could hear her speaking to me in Dutch. She was a Dutch immigrant. Um, and again, very organic. It seemed very natural. She would appear to me in my dreams. Um, and then it wasn't until I lost my husband, tragically and unexpectedly in 2019, that everything just cracked wide open. And that was the beginning of a very intense spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I can't imagine what an experience that must have been. I mean, it's the thing that gets me is that these spiritual experiences that so many people have are preceded by some sort of, oftentimes, not all
Trauma.
the time, yeah, some sort of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
some sort of
Mm-hmm.
life-shattering thing that takes place, and I don't know why that is, but I'm guessing that were you just pretty much in shock then when this happened?
I was in shock. And it was about 2 weeks later, because of the nature of the car accident, the investigators were thinking it was a suicide. And I was more rocked by that. Like, how could I not know he was suicidal? So I was questioning that. I mean, of course, I was highly doubtful that it was, but, a little part of you is like, maybe he was, maybe I didn't see the signs. And it was about 2 weeks later when I was preparing for a shower. And again, out of nowhere, his voice, in very, um, let's just say, very dramatic and profound interpretation, he told me that he did not commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And he explained how I would understand that he didn't. He told me in detail that he said, he crashed into a tree, and he said, I had my seatbelt on. Basically, who commits suicide by
Yeah.
vehicular, suicide with a seatbelt on? So that was the beginning. And after that, I started to experiment with questions and answers via dream. I would pray to him before I went to sleep, and he would appear in my dreams and answer.
Okay, so at this point, it seems like most of what was happening was sort of, I don't know, I would say like communication with him, and that's where this all started, was with him sort of, communicating with you. But as this progressed, is that where it stopped, or what was happening in the rest of your life outside of, dealing with the trauma and the shock?
So I still didn't know anything, spiritual wise, anything like that. It wasn't until later in the year, he died the beginning of 2019. In the fall of 2019, I met a man that I dated for a short time, and we ended up splitting up. But that breakup, something happened from that breakup. So now I understand that this was a spiritual connection that was to trigger my full-blown awakening, so to speak, or the beginning of my awakening. So that person pretty much got things rolling as far as placing me where I needed to be on my path and kind of opening my eyes to what was happening. My awareness then broadened extensively after meeting this individual.
What was it? What was it about that person that that you felt? I mean, was it just something that you can't explain, or was there something in particular about that situation that sort of awoken you even more? What was it?
That, well, first of all, the person that I speak of was not like highly desirable as far as, you know, he was an ex-convict, but there were things about him that really highlighted things about me. I believe they call it like a mirror effect.
Right.
So unbeknownst to me that this was happening at the time, but after the breakup, everything was illuminated. He started to appear in my dreams. During the same time, I met my spirit guide via dream work. And intuitively, I started to try and calm myself, because now I started to feel, you know, when you begin an awakening, all of your empathic
Channels.
skills
Yeah.
and channels just start to open up. And because of this spiritual emergency I had, it was intensified. I mean, just tenfold. I could feel emotion of people in the car next to me on the freeway. I mean, I couldn't function. I had to literally isolate. So
Wow.
again, intuitively, I decided I needed to start to meditate. So I started to Google, you know, self-meditation. So I kind of taught myself just how to do that to ground myself in order to function. I still had to work, you know. So I knew that this man was important for the for a catalyst, you know, if anything. But I
Right.
started to learn more about the twin flame thing, and then I understood more, and it just kind of helped to guide me along the journey I was about to embark on.
Okay, so for the people listening, I want to clarify two things. The first thing is she just mentioned the word twin flame, and so when she had this relationship, she stated that she could see herself, see her own reflection, she'd see her own being in a way she could never see before. And I know we have perhaps some people from Quora joining us, because Steph writes, as well as I do, in a number of different, you know, spaces and forums and whatnot. But some of those being twin flames. So she and I have had many talks over time about that, and so there is something about meeting someone that can reflect part of your own being back to you that you can't see. And then the other thing that I found interesting, Steph, that you were talking about is the awakening, and how all these like empathic channels were opened, and it was like almost too much. Now, a lot of people in different spiritual circles and whatnot call that, it might be called Kundalini awakening. And so one of the reasons why there's so much talk about Kundalini awakening is because, when it happens, it's such a shock that sometimes some people feel like they're going crazy. Some people feel some of the energy aspects of it. Now, did you feel any energetic surges, or any pain or cool or hot feelings at this time in your experience?
Internally, I could feel something happening. I started to, before I had, the awareness of awakening, I was having bloody noses for about 10 nights straight. It was waking me up in the middle of the night.
Wow.
These bloody noses. And I'm not talking like just little, I'm talking like floodgates opening. So I also, ailments started to disappear. I suffered from arthritis. It was really difficult for me to sleep through the night. That seemed to disappear. I had digestive issues that seemed to disappear. So what I understand now is that my chakras started to open.
Okay.
Didn't even know what a chakra was. So all of this was just so mind-blowing to me. And I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. I thought, finally the grief had just caught up with me. And I didn't even originally tie it to this other man, triggering it. It wasn't until the dreams and the visions. And I mean, it was just a plethora of metaphysical events happening to me, one after the other. It was
It's
unbelievable.
crazy. I mean, even your bloody noses. I was thinking of. I've been watching this. Some of the people listening maybe they know what I'm talking about. I've been watching this Netflix series called the OA. It stands for the Other Angel, and it's kind of a heavy series, but very spiritual. And she was someone going through this spiritual awakening, and she was having these nosebleeds. Ever since she was a kid. But anyways, it's fascinating to me that sometimes when things start happening in the metaphysical world, it kind of filters down into the physical world, and things like the nosebleeds. And a lot of people who get Kundalini awakenings will feel, they'll feel cool feelings rising up the spine. Sometimes they'll feel a hot burning sensation, and that, my understanding of that is that's when energy is kind of stuck and it's pushing. There's nadis that run throughout the whole body. Those are basically a system of energetic channels, like roadways that run through your body, and there's supposed to be millions of them, but of course there's some main ones. But and then how overwhelming it is. I mean, I remember when I was going through my initial awakening, I remember there was someone who was a spiritual person who just looked at me point blank and said the dialogue never ends, and I just shook my head, and I was amazed, because I felt like I was having this ongoing dialogue, not just so much in my head like I was going crazy, but that there was this, creation, God, source, all these things, there's just like a constant song going on. And when you go from like blindness and no sight and deaf and no sound to like, now I'm hearing for the first time, wow, creation is singing a song. Now I'm seeing for the first time. I'm seeing like myself in that homeless guy in the street, or I'm seeing myself in this other guy who just got angry at me, or I'm seeing myself sad like this person is. Now it's so overwhelming. It's like night and day. And what were you going to say?
It's incredibly overwhelming, and to figure out that it's spiritual is another evolution in itself. You're like, whoa, this is spiritual. I mean, it just, so many things. It's endless, these doors that just keep opening and opening. And still to this day, they're still opening. It's a lot smoother and slower of a process than what I, initially experienced. But I'd really like to emphasize that when this was happening, it wasn't just me feeling it. It was the people around me also feeling it.
Yeah.
And Kristen, you and I have discussed this, that vibration that we put off, that
the Jesus
others
effect.
can feel.
Yeah.
The Jesus effect.
We call it the Jesus effect. I love that term, and I'm sure other people are using it, but tell me about, I love that. I mean, because I had it too. I mean, you and I, in our many spiritual conversations, discovered this common theme, but tell me what that means to you. Like, what was happening that made you think that, wow, man, I've got the Jesus effect?
Well, unlike you, I didn't embrace it in the beginning. It freaked me out because, don't get me wrong. I work in the public eye. I love people, but this was complete strangers. Not just, I mean, they wanted to touch me. And
like when you're out in public going to get a tea at Starbucks or something, or what?
Yes, I was at Starbucks, and I was meeting with a client, and we were just having coffee. It was a crowded Starbucks. And from the back of the Starbucks, I could sense somebody staring at me. And it was an older gentleman
You can
and
feel
his
the vibes.
wife.
You can feel the vibes.
I could feel it, the eyes on me, yes. So eventually I saw him get up, and he approached me, and he had to smile from ear to ear. And he said, "I can feel your energy all the way at the back of the room."
Yeah.
And I was so blown away by that. And it was that moment that everything just changed for me. I'm like, this is a positive thing.
Yeah. This is not religion. This is not religion. I mean, we use the name Jesus, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, hey, don't use it like that. But this is, I think, I mean, even in Jesus' life, I mean, there were people who attracted to him who were, like that guy. And then there was very disturbed. Did you ever have any disturbed people attracted to you? Because that is actually something that is a pattern too. I don't know if you had that.
That's been my whole life.
Yeah, outside. Well, gosh, I just, going back to that whole Jesus effect thing, Steph, it happened to me yesterday. I haven't even had a chance to throw this one at you yet. I had a few things go wrong in my house. One thing in particular that I wanted them to fix, my thermostat on my heater broke. So I called my landlord and I said, I have a couple other things too. So this guy came over yesterday and, as you know, peace is important to me, and not only meditation and the things that lead to peace. I was playing this YouTube, here, kitty cat.
Yeah, that's Kiki. Sorry,
Okay.
she's
No, that's
making her
okay.
guest appearance.
I fed mine to the point of they're in food coma, sleeping on the bed. So that's hopefully they won't wake up and come out. But so this guy comes in yesterday to fix my heater, and wonderful soul walks in. He's got his mask on and everything. Young guy, Hispanic guy, and he takes one step in to my house. And I had this beautiful little YouTube, I put on these little soundtracks that are tuned for different frequencies. And I just have it as side music in the background. But when he walked in, he felt the peace. I didn't know it right away. But then later on, he just let the floodgates out. And he started telling me all that's been happening in his life. I don't know if you've had that happen, if you've had someone just...
That happens constantly. Yeah, I feel like a bartender.
Yeah. And you're not, and so and it was okay though, because I think the reason why it happened, it goes back to that whole Jesus effect thing. This guy felt something here in my house. What he felt was peaceful. He walked in and he broke down and he told me how deep this depression and everything he's been having, anxiety and all this stuff. And it's, and I thought about, and he and I talked for a while. I gave him the vagus nerve hack, which is a breathe in for like 4 seconds, breathe out for 8 seconds. And I talked to him about some other things, but it doesn't happen. A lot of people think, oh, I want that. Like I want, people to be attracted to me or this. It doesn't happen because your ego wants it to happen. It happens because there's something happening in your spiritual life that is something that is going out. And like you said, that guy goes, when you walked in the room, I could feel your energy. And so it's crazy, but it's because something is happening within our beings that is drawing them to a place. Because everyone, they need healing. They need help. They need sanity, especially in this day and age. And the neat thing, Steph, and you and I have talked a lot about this, we create a lot of that. When that guy walked in my house yesterday, he didn't just walk into a house that happened to be peaceful. Everything I do in my life is I'm creating that peace. We're all doing that. Some of it's happening organically and some of it is intention, and we're bringing it in.
Right. Chris, do you remember those old commercials? I think it was a shampoo commercial, and they said, well, I use this, and then it goes on, and then this person used it. It's like this, you gave healing to him. He's going to take that.
Right.
He's going to create it for somebody else. It just is never ending, creates this giant spider web. That's how I envision.
Yes.
It's this giant spider web of healing and love energy.
Right.
And people, love has become so cliche and has lost the profoundness behind it.
Yeah.
It's not all chocolates and roses. It's
right.
So beyond that.
Right. I love that you, the web, of course we have the internet, which is the World Wide Web, but you talked about that spider web, that web kind of thing. I love that you brought that up, because I've always thought that, that this whole thing is like a virus, but a good virus, a holy virus, for lack of a better term, right?
Right. I love that.
Yeah, it's like you catch it.
Right.
You catch it, and you get infected with this. It's something that goes into you. You catch it from someone else. It goes from person to person, but anyways, it's a good thing. So you start noticing the Jesus effect. You had that relationship that kind of came and went fairly quick, right? How long did that relationship last?
I saw a past life. So I had somehow tapped into people refer to it as the Akashic records. It brought me back to Egypt, and this was,
Wait, Egypt literally, like the country?
yeah.
Okay.
Do you not know this?
No,
Have
no,
I
I
not
don't. Well,
talked to you about
I
this?
don't know if you might have talked to me, but I only say that because there's a whole group of spiritual people who said, "Oh, I went back to Egypt, and that's like a symbolic thing." So go ahead and tell me. I'll probably remember if you told me this before.
Now, people have always asked me, well, have you all, your whole life had some connection to Egypt? Like, were you fascinated? No, I wasn't. I've never had any, I remember my mom had a necklace of Nefertiti. And aside from that, I never really, was interested in the pyramids or anything like that. So when I had this past life vision, um, it was quite disturbing yet fascinating,
Oh,
because
okay,
in this
yeah,
vision I was a man, number one.
right.
But it was definitely Egypt. He was definitely, or I was in, clothing of, oh my gosh, I mean, I can't even tell you how far. It must have been, before Christ, I'm assuming. I don't know any. I have no history knowledge of Egypt, but I did go under hypnotherapy for this, because it just rattled my world. That was the only thing I could focus on, was that Egyptian man
And that's probably
for the
because
longest time. It
that's
was just,
it was probably shocking to like a lot of people, and I have to say this right now because some people don't necessarily have any experience with like past life regression or things of this nature. And I just want to say this as people are listening, that like I used to think the chakras were a joke. I came out of organized religion, and here I am several years later, and I am not only positive they're not a joke, I am actively involved in working with my own. So these things, I just want to say to people who are listening, because, we have all these ideas and we have these kind of dogmas, whether religious or not, because even like science, even scientists have dogmas in their, field of study or whatever. But for people who are listening who maybe haven't experienced past life regression or things like that, what you have to understand, what I've done in the spiritual journey is when I hear things that I don't quite identify or understand or agree with, what I do is I just say, okay, and I don't judge it either way. And I just say that's for later. Because I can, right now, what I can say is you were obsessed with this because it was so it was like shattering to have this vision. And it's all you could think of, because it's like, this is like you, this is like a part of your life. This is like something you had to find out more about. So when you went to that hypnotherapist, what happened? Did they take you back? Did you get more information?
I got more information, and basically, it was all about living your true self, because in that lifetime, I was deeply empathic, but I was a soldier. So it was a complete contradiction to what I truly was. My true essence was not to harm people, it was to help people. And so, it really went back. I never in this lifetime thought I was empathic, or even sometimes sympathetic. I remember, many people would tell me I had no compassion. I had gone into, I wanted to be an addiction counselor, and I was told several times that I was too cold. And which is just so mind blowing to me now, because now I cry at the drop of a hat. So it's, yeah, life is very, very different from what it was, just a year ago. But from 20 years ago, it's, total 180.
So here we are now. So you've had this beautiful spiritual awakening. You've had, so many things kind of pass through your life. You had that one relationship that came and went, and so on and so forth, which was part of your, let's put it this way, everything. The trauma from losing your
Yes.
husband, to the twin relationship, to even now, like everything that happens, it just happens and it's part of the journey. And I keep thinking, okay, you know what it is? It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, because this is it, Steph. I mean, this is it right now. Like we are choosing to love our lives and embrace it and to manifest more good things, or we're choosing to despair of it and curse it and focus on the negative things. I mean, you and I know we run into so many people on the Quora forums, on the spaces, that are so focused on the negativity in their life, and I know it gets a little annoying at times.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's really about living in the now, creating the best life moving forward, and knowing that we have the power to do that. People live in this state of, we're just programmed to go to work and have nice things, and it's not about that at all.
yeah, I mean, there's something going on right now, right here and right now, that is it's so powerful if we awaken to it. And that's one of the reasons why I spend time in contemplation, meditation every day, and also in yoga, is in order that I won't miss it, because it's already right here. It's already near. It's already around us. It's within us. It's above us, below us, beneath us. And it's about tapping into that. I look at it more like it's a frequency more than a place, because a lot of times people, and especially again, we get this more in the dogmatic kind of organized religion mentality, is we look at like heaven as a destination, a place that we go to one day. But I don't know about you, but when I read the spiritual teachings, I'm told that it's right here, right now, and that we need to wake up to that. And I just love your wake up story. So what's on the horizon? I mean, what's your pursuit goals now that you've had all these things happen? Where do you want to go? I mean, the life is your enchilada right now, Steph.
So I was just talking to my boyfriend about this too, is that I kind of wake up each day an open, channel to be guided as I feel I'm meant to go down my path. So every day I just kind of wake up with gratitude, and I live in a state of happiness, and that is a choice. And by being in that state, I have never been let down by God. And I just have everything has always worked out for me. I know a lot of people things don't just work out. You got to take action. Yes, you got to take action. You got to move, never remain stagnant.
Right.
Remain positive, optimistic, and of course, work towards happiness,
Yes.
Work towards a goal. Right now, I'm living a life it is so unfamiliar to me, because I've raised children. I've always been a wife. I felt like I was always doing for others. I was kind of on the back burner most of my adult life. And so now I'm the key person now. I am responsible for me, and pretty much only me.
Yeah.
So this is brand new to me, and I'm loving it. And
this is your time,
so
Steph.
I have
this is your time.
Yeah, it is. So I can't even tell you, where do I see myself in a year? I have no idea. I think there's a move coming for me in the next year or two. I do feel that very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that I will, because right now I have a very, very, 9 to 5 job, not any spiritual relation to it at all. So I literally turn off my spiritual switch when I go to work, and, turn it back on when I leave. But, eventually I would like to go more into, a healing dynamic where I can help others from the heart space, of course.
We're going to talk a little bit more, but one thing I want to do now is, you never know, there's a handful of people watching live right now, and I did give people the option on Quora, if they came to listen to the podcast, to call in. and say hi to Steph Diane.
Oh,
So I don't know, we don't have tons of people watching, but for those watching live, I'm going to give the number out just in case someone wants to call, ask a question, say something, say thank you, whatever. So the number is 858-367-3765. I'm going to give that again in a second. So if you want to call in, if you're a Quora space follower who follows either Steph's or any of my spaces, then you're welcome to call and chat. Or if you aren't a Quora fan, but you just want to call in and chime in or say something or ask a question, you're welcome to do it too. I'm going to give the number again. It's 858-367-3765. So that's for anyone who wants to call in. I just want to, Steph, as we just kind of like take a step back for a second, as your kitty takes a step forward. Gosh, I can't believe mine are still sleeping. It's amazing. When I did this, when I did my first podcast, since I kind of relaunched it on Thanksgiving Day, I thought, let's look at gratitude. And I'm amazed at, and then, here's what happened. So I did this little short podcast on gratitude. And after I did that, I focused on gratitude for the next couple of weeks. So I did a mental exercise every time, because you know how the mind and the ego is. A lot of times when there's things that need to be done or someone says something you don't like or whatever it is, the mind tends to go back to those, like the polarity of the mind, especially the ego. I don't know why it is, but it tends to want to go these negative things, right? So I had this experiment that I wanted to do ever since Thanksgiving rolled around and I talked about gratitude. I wanted to, every time a kind of a negative thought came into my mind, like, oh, what about this? Or you got to do this, or this person said that. Every time that would happen, I would counteract it with a positive thought. And so basically, it was an experiment that I was running, and I couldn't believe how it began to transform me, because every time something popped into my mind that I wasn't, happy about or whatever, I would think about, well, look at it this way. And I would think about something positive in that same situation. I'm gonna give you an example. So a lot of people in life experience some sort of loss of a job or whatever, person or whatever. But instead of thinking about the negative side of it, someone can think about the good. Like if it's a job, well, I never really liked my boss, so it gives me an opportunity to find a new one or a better job, or I get to do something I really enjoy doing, like because I wasn't really enjoying that job. Or if it was a person, well, I'm really just going to be thankful for the time I share with that person, and I'm going to be optimistic and looking forward to this new relationship. Hang on just a second here. We have okay, I got a call coming in, but I lost it. I had this all set up before we started with two separate phones, and then we had some technical difficulties. I know if that person's listening, I want you to go ahead and, I know it's one of our Quora persons because I recognized the location was Ojai. I want you to go ahead and call back, and I'm going to pick up. I'm going to have to figure this out because there's going to be two of you on the same channel at the same time. But go ahead and call back, and we'll get this person on, because I know this, by the way, Steph, I know this person is a real big fan of yours because she told me so. So I don't know who, I can't remember what her name was, but she should call back, and then we'll get her on, and I'll have to just merge the calls for a minute, and maybe she can just go ahead and ask her question, and then she can hang up and listen to the response or whatever. So anyways, yeah, back to the whole gratitude thing, just focusing on the good things. And here we go. We're gonna answer this call. Hello, this is Chris. Who do I have?
To accept, press 1.
Oh, hang on a second. Let me just let me turn that channel on. Hang on.
To accept, press 1.
Are you there? Okay, are you there? Oops. Steph, you there? Hey, Steph, are you there?
I'm here.
Looks like we lost Steph Diane.
I'm here.
Too confusing. I have so many things going on here. Hopefully we get Steph to call back in. Um, let's see here. Maybe what I can do in the meantime. I am ringing. Oops. Call from this one. Ring this person up and see what we can get. Okay, Steph, are you back on with me? Steph, are you there with me? Let's see here. We are on the Bluetooth channel. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, Steph. Hang on. Steph?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to call back. Just give me a minute, and I'll call you right back. Okay?
Okay.
Somehow I lost. Sorry, guys. I have some technical challenges here. Now the music's going on. Everything's going wacko here. But hey, this is life, right? Okay, so I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to try and call this person back. See if we can get their question. Here we go. I think this is going to work this time.
Hello?
Hey there. Okay, I got you now. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Who?
Okay, you got me.
Yeah, I finally got you. Who am I talking to?
This, on Quora, my name's Kat.
Okay, Kat. Thanks for calling. This is the first time I've been doing call-ins with a call-in guest, so I've got a lot of like wires and equipment. So I'm thankful that you picked up, and I'm going to get Steph.
Great.
Steph's offline right now because she got bumped off. But go ahead and why don't you go ahead and share with me whatever it is you wanted to share, and I'm going to get her back on the line.
Are we on?
We are on live though. Yeah, you're on live with me right now.
Okay. So basically, I just wanted to connect up with the two of you.
Yes.
I don't really have a question. Basically, things awakened for me about a year and a half ago that was bombarding. And so I started going down the rabbit hole. What does this mean?
Yeah.
Connection. Found the twin soul, twin flame, soulmate, whole world, and have just, been reading a lot about it and absolutely connect up with the twin flame or twin soul concept. And yeah, I've shared a good bit with Steph, mostly on separate emails. And mainly I wanted to just say I'm so excited to talk with people that also have similar or the same experiences, and this whole awakening phenomena that crosses over into so many different realms.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal, isn't it?
It is. But I haven't met a real live person in person.
Yeah.
Everything I've done has been on the internet. So that piece has been frustrating for me.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think one of the interesting things is that at least what I'm thinking is would we even be having this conversation were it not for the internet? So in one sense, it's kind of frustrating because we want to be able to meet with these people and have them in our lives. But at the same time, it's kind of like the internet has been the key for us to be I think it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like if you think about what the internet's done in the last few years, even just for getting people to awaken to certain things or whatever, and to find out, who we are and where we're going. But I love the fact that you called in because I want this to become a regular thing. I would love to have at least podcasts once a week where we have people that are reading the Twin Flame, spaces and awakening and Kundalini and all these spaces that they would call in and chime in. Cause I mean, I'm just so excited that we can all connect and kind of talk about, what's been going on in our lives and so on and so forth. So you found Steph.
I am too.
Yeah. So you found Steph. How did you find her? Were you just reading about Twin Flames then?
Yep. Yeah. And then I think she had a site called Twin Flames Over 40,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Okay.
So that's where I plugged in, because a lot of other discussions really I don't resonate with as much. It sounds like younger people and new love. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
the more mature experiences are what I totally relate to, and especially to Steph. So yeah, it's been a while, but we had a couple of really good emails back and forth.
And so where are you at now as far as your, in your journey? You've found things on Core, you found some people, and then are you a person that experienced a twin flame relationship then?
Yes. And kind of in a nutshell, we dated back in the 70s. We were both young. I was 17, 18, 19, 20. And then we parted without the details. It was necessary. And he's older a little bit. And for 40-something years, we lost contact. And a year and a half ago, he found me.
Oh my gosh. And that seems to be right around the time don't you think that a lot of people found each other or came together before?
Yeah.
Now, are you guys in separation now, or are you together?
Yes, because we're in our 60s. We have families. We have husbands and wives. We have spouses we love. And
yeah.
So it's a tumultuous, world-rocking journey. So we talk now and then, but not very often, at his wife's request.
Yeah, of course.
So we're in the midst of trying to figure it out. But the common thread is that we are together 24/7, etherically. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So what?
Unbelievable.
What happened when you kind of ran into him a year and a half ago or whatever? Is that when, what changed in your life? Did something really big happen at that point?
Basically, he found my sister online.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because of our age, we're both pretty incompetent with technology. But then he and I connected, and in the first week of conversation, our lives were transformed, just in our hearts, in the way we see the world, energetically. The power of unconditional love was phenomenal and has remained so. I mean, both of us, our whole world changed.
Isn't that, that's what I want people to understand, because like you said, there's these younger groups on Core that are twin flame groups. And for those younger groups, it's kind of like you said, I mean, it's not that I can't relate to him at all, but there's a lot of oh, he broke up with me, or what do I do? And there's a lot of that stuff going on. But what you just said to me about the drastic change that happened when you ran into him again, and how you both I mean, it's like divine. It's like no one, people don't understand. They think that this twin flame thing is just kind of like the new word for soulmates or whatever. And it has nothing to do with that. I mean, it is until you experience it yourself, it is so phenomenal. It's so hard to explain it. And did you feel like this feeling sometimes when people have near-death experiences, they'll say the first feeling I felt on the other side was I felt like I was home. Did you have that feeling on Earth, like you were home?
Are you still there?
Yeah, you blocked out. I think you said absolutely.
Yeah, and the biggest the biggest piece of this whole experience has been both, different stories, but both of us have had a reemergence of a connection with God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to term it. I mean, that has just been mind-blowing.
Now,
a new
was that
spiritual awakening.
was that connection that you had before, or was the connection to God that you had before you ran into him, or in times past, was that a little more structurally religious, like in the sense of organized religion or something like that?
I have been all over the map.
Yeah.
I've been all over the map exploring my whole life. Basically, the last 40 years that I lost him, and in the last 10 years, I've been pretty. I don't know if you call it orthodox, but I'm Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and I would describe myself as metaphysical Christian.
Yeah.
Into more of the deep works, the lost books, the higher teachings that aren't commonplace. But I've gone to a normal church and have a community, a small group there that are on the same page. So I've been both.
Okay.
But
So when you say the lost books,
experience-
you mean like things like the Gospel of Thomas and
yeah,
and some
the
of those,
Gnostic,
yeah.
and some of the ancient wisdom, books of ancient wisdom of, going into the times of Plato and Aristotle and digging into more metaphysical things connected to astronomy and astrology.
Mm-hmm.
All of that whole world.
It's almost like, I don't know if you've heard of the Odes of Solomon. Have you ever heard of the Odes of Solomon?
I have, but haven't looked into it.
You'll have to look those up. I a few years back, I came across a guy who was working on an album project. Actually, it was the music I had leading up to the start of the podcast was some music that he wrote, and he was writing an album on the Odes of Solomon, which are like pretty. They're songs that early believers in Christianity sang, but they, I don't know about you, but when you start reading some of these more kind of hidden, esoteric, Christian mystical kind of works, I don't know about you, but when I found the Odes of Solomon, it's like a portal open from above, and it's like,
Right.
I was never the same. I don't know how this all works. I mean, I remember driving down the road, listening to some of these completed songs that he'd written about the Odes of Solomon, and I felt like a hand came down and grabbed me and took me to another place. But I was still on the road. I'll never forget it. I was on the 5 North, approaching San Juan Capistrano, where I just happen to live now. And as I was driving down the freeway, it was as if everything got transformed into this heavenly scene. And I had this joy, ecstasy. I can't even explain it. And I knew, it's almost like the NDEs that you hear about when the people have these near-death experiences. I just knew that I was always loved. I knew that I was like never alone. I knew that everything would be all right. And then there was this connection. And, I try to avoid some of the terms that we've used over the years, in organized religion, just because I don't want to set people off and everything. But, you do feel that feeling like you're connected to God, like you're one. And it's just like, then you start to understand some of those Jesus statements, like, like nothing matters. Like there's nothing like gold and riches and all that. Nothing compares to this kind of stuff, because you can't buy it,
Right. And you can't create it. You can't make it happen. It's a gift. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm so glad that I'm glad you're nearby in Ojai. I'm part of a yoga community down here that goes up there once a year, and we have retreats and stuff like that. But Ojai is such a cool little spiritual community. I mean, isn't there a lot of like, kind of like, I don't want to say retired hippies, but isn't it kind of like a hippie spiritual community?
Yeah, there's a lot. We're such a great eclectic group. There is that community and a bunch of other little micro communities, and I think it's one of the special places because of unity. It's like your Ojai first, and then whatever your subset is the second. I love that.
And then you have the great, you have that little golf course at the Ojai Inn or whatever. That thing is, that place is, I mean, there's pictures of, like Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, when they've been playing golf all
Yeah,
day.
people come from all over. Yeah, our big thing is the hills for hiking because we're hikers, and you can get up on the mountain behind our house and then see the ocean. It's just amazing. Yeah.
So at this point in your life, what is your plan as far as where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What's your spiritual appetite, and what direction are you going right now?
I am really in a mixed up phase right now. I just retired, so not having to go to work, and I'm a retired social worker and psychologist, and the area that is calling me, it has something to do with human trafficking. That's
Oh,
all I can really hone in on yet, but
okay.
that's where I'm going. I think if I am learning how to pay attention to what is calling me versus where does my mind want to take me, and of course that's the great the great balance, but something in that area, I think, or I hope, I don't know.
Good. And then as far as your spiritual practice day in and day out, what does that look like as far as like what do you do to get close to God, or what do you do to progress spiritually?
I have to move physically. It's just my nature. So almost every day I hike at least a couple hours. And aside from that, when it's not winter, well, 3 months a year I don't swim, but with a friend we ocean swim and pretty long stretches. So my base, is connecting with nature. It's what grounds me. And I go to a local church on Sundays that I love, and it's a Christian church, and I meditate almost always twice a day, once a day, and sometimes most of the time twice a day, and that's my practice.
That's good. And it sounds like I love the fact that you have the liberty to pursue some of these, like other texts, and then you're still involved with your church. I really struggled. I had a hard time with some of my friends not understanding the awakening I was going through, and a lot of them thought it was not of God and it's the devil and all that kind of stuff. Did you have any of that kind of problem?
Well, you know what? I have learned over the years to be selective. They say don't throw your pearls to the swine. You have to be careful who you disclose what to. So in my church, I have 2 people, and we talk on this level. The rest I connect with on our little church does tons of community service. So we're working the homeless shelter. We're working for Team Challenge. We're a doer. And so I plug into all those things, and I take in the sermons, and, we have a phenomenal band. So the music is crazy, over the top, fantastic. So, there are a lot of things I plug into, but I don't talk about everything
Yeah.
on a personal level.
Yeah. Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah, I take the best parts of it that works for me, and I don't judge or criticize the others. I just leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, that's very gracious. And you've had some time to have some experiences in life to, sometimes it takes a while to get to that point and to know, hey, maybe I shouldn't say this to that person or whatever. I just had a hard time sometimes feeling like, I don't know, that I had to watch what I said about around certain people. And after a while, you kind of get tired of that, and you're like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be myself.
Yeah. And I talk in general. I just don't get personal. But people know that I'm coming from a little bit of a different place. But our church is quite broad in its spectrum of who goes to it. Some are, very conservative, and some are very, very liberal, and there's everything in between. And, I use conservative, liberal loosely, spiritually conservative and liberal, and the other spectrum as well that we're not going to talk about. But it just happens to be a unique one that is so welcoming of everybody. And the pastor doesn't take a stand on what's right or wrong. So,
Right.
yeah.
Kat, thank you
Yeah.
so much for calling in and
Welcome.
sharing. And we lost Steph. Steph was, we were just having all these technical challenges. We'll get it all worked out. And
All right.
I hope you call back in the
Okay.
future too. And
Okay.
it was great talking to you. And I
Thank you.
really look forward to seeing you again or talking to you again.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Bye, Kat.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for today. You know, a while back I thought this is going to be really cool to produce this live podcast on the fly, and it is really cool, but it's also a challenge. So I'm learning. We're going to have more call-in guests, and we're going to have a lot more in the future. Thanks for checking it out today and signing on and listening. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe, because if you subscribe, then you'll get notifications when we go live. And so until next time, I'm Chris Anthony. This is Streams of Light podcast. Thanks for joining us.